In Palestine, Israeli authorities put the 23-year-old young man Ahmed Wanastra under house arrest hours after his release 14 years of incarceration. Wanastra has a serious head injury as a result of the brutal conditions to which he was subjected in prison. His lawyer reported that Manastra's 10 years of imprisonment aggravated his psychological health, which led him to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. The attorney added that Israeli authorities have placed the young man under house arrest until Sunday, preventing his relatives from celebrating his release. And 10 Palestinians detained from Gaza by Israeli troops were freed and returned to the territory on Thursday, saying they had suffered constant abuse while in prison. The 10 prisoners, all of them middle-aged or above, elderly men, disembarked, visibly tired from the buses in which they arrived at the hospital. One of them, with visible wounds to his head and hands, needed help to get out of the vehicle and had to be transferred directly to a wheelchair. The prisoners claimed not to know why they had been released, although they all had in common that they were elderly and suffering from illnesses.
Is this how my father was? Is this what he has become? He wasn't like this. This isn't the father that we know. This isn't the father that they took away. My father lived through famine, through a difficult life. He lived under bombardment. He got out from under the rubble twice. My father was taken while he was injured. His pelvis was broken and he had fracture in his spine. He had just left the hospital and he could barely walk. Why did they take him to torture him? From November 6 until today, 156 days have passed since we were in agony. We were tortured and we were in pain. There was no rest or sleep for us there. We were tortured every day, and every day they oppressed and humiliated us. We thank God we came out safe.
And the new wave of Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip has killed dozens of Palestinians within the last 24 hours as the aggression intensifies. The Gaza Health Ministry announced on Thursday that 40 Palestinians have been killed and 146 others injured in the past 24 hours as a result of the ongoing Israeli airstrikes. The ministry added that the total death toll from the Israeli aggression on Gaza had risen to 50,886. The ministry issued an urgent appeal to replenish medical supplies in hospitals and primary care centers, reporting a critical and unprecedented shortage of essential medicines and medical consumables. And Gaza's health ministry warns of unprecedented shortage of medicines due to continued Israeli attacks. The health system in Gaza is facing a total collapse and urgently appeal for help to reinforce supplies to hospitals and primary care centers, which are facing critical shortages never seen before. According to official figures, some 80,000 patients with diabetes and 110,000 patients with hypertension have no medicines. In addition, 37% of essential drugs and 59% of basic medical supplies are completely out of stock. The closure of border crossings prevents the entry of medical aid, aggravating the health crisis. China raises tariffs on U.S. goods from 84% to 125% in response to the tariff war unleashed by Donald Trump's administration. Additional tariffs on goods imported from the United States will be revised as of April 12th. The latest 41-point increase is another Beijing response to the so-called reciprocal tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump. Chinese authorities have reiterated that the imposition of the United States of abnormally high tariffs on the country violates international trade rules and runs counter to basic economic laws and common sense. And in the United States, Democratic lawmakers accuse President Donald Trump of manipulating the financial market by boosting insider trading amid the suspension of reciprocal tariffs on the country's trading partners. The senators also charged the president with the crime of illicit enrichment, demanding that an immediate investigation be opened, while warning that these constant political alterations represent a real risk of financial corruption. In this regard, Senator Chris Murphy alleged that this demonstrates a clear intention to allow the closest to his successor to benefit financially. The Democrat statements followed by a message from Donald Trump in which he said that this is a great time to buy before announcing a 90-day pause on new tariffs for most countries except China. In Ecuador, the electoral silence began this Friday ahead of Sunday's April 13th presidential runoff. Over 13 million citizens are called to the polls to choose the executive for the next 4 years. The National Electoral Council reported that political organizations and citizens must observe the electoral silence that will be maintained until 5 p.m. local time on Sunday, April 13th. Electoral authorities also ratified the beginning of the dry law as from noon Friday. Let us remember that this electoral process takes place amidst an economic crisis and high levels of insecurity, which according to different analysts will be decisive factors in the results of the presidential runoff. Also on Friday, assisted voting moves forward in Ecuador for people with disabilities within the process of the presidential runoff. The Ecuadorian National Electoral Council deployed 174 voting stations and 110 routes in the country. The operation has the logistical and security support of the National Police, the Army, and traffic agents. This program is aimed at people over 50 years of age with a physical disability equal to or greater than 75% and benefits 662 people. And as we are heading into Sunday's electoral ballot in Ecuador, we are going live with our special envoy Jorge Gestoso, who is in Ecuador, to have more details as everything is preparing as we're getting closer to the electoral day. Welcome, Gestoso. Welcome to From the South. What can you tell us from there?
Thank you very much. We are here in our studios in Quito. We are just about 48 hours away from the clear moment of the runoff in the presidential elections, and we have the privilege to have with us the political analyst David Martinez to put in perspective. We have seen each other before. We're talking about 2 months ago. David, what has changed in the political arena regarding this runoff compared to 2 months ago with the first round?
Well, Jorge, what we have seen is that polls have tightened. It's been a very tight race from the beginning, but within the last few weeks or so, the polls have shown that optimism and certain support from social organizations and social bases have widened Luisa Gonzalez's opportunities. She is right now 3 or 4 points ahead in all serious polls, and some showing at least 5 points of advantage. So there is a slight possibility that she is heading forward towards Sunday.
Well, for the audience who watch us and they're not familiarized with the situation in Ecuador, first round, technical, whatever.
It was a virtual tie.
Virtual
yes.
tie, 44% each of them.
Yes.
Third person in the first round, we're talking about Leonidas Isa, who represent an indigenous movement called Pachacutic with 5.3%. So if you add up 44% plus the 5% of Pachacutic, we're talking about simple arithmetic, we're reaching close to 50%. And Pachacutic has given the endorsement to Luisa Gonzalez, plus another candidate that was eliminated before. We're talking about Jan Topic. So basically, she is arriving to this runoff with more support, political support, than in the first round.
Very much so. We have seen not only CONAIE, which is the largest indigenous group, but other smaller organizations and center-right candidates such as Jan Topic, who initially were supposed to support the right wing, but have shown their support for Luisa Gonzalez in the final stages.
We have detected in the first round that all the time, all the voices in different parts of the country repeats, this is an election where the field is not level. Is not level in favor of the president candidate, because he was president candidate at the same time against the Constitution, Daniel Noboa. For this runoff, the field is still not level?
The field is still not leveled, and it hasn't been for the past 8 years. We have to understand that this election is a referendum, finally, of neoliberal policies that have been in place for the last 3 governments, with Lenin Moreno, with Guillermo Lasso, and now 18 months with Daniel Noboa. People have not seen really any betterment in their lives, in the economic situation, in the violence. This has been the most violent trimester in the history of Ecuador, with 2,500 homicides up until February. So people have not seen the results of these neoliberal policies. But what we have seen as well is an abuse of power from these elites, oligarchic elites in Ecuador that have taken over the judicial system, the electoral system, and now we see that they have full support from mainstream media, in private media in Ecuador, which has given them a certain advantage towards leading a discourse and engaging in illegal activity really towards the elections. We have to remember that Daniel Noboa, as a candidate, had to request permission to be a candidate to the National Assembly, and he did not do so. And so he has not been respectful of the institutions and the electoral law, and this has shown that he is willing to break anything towards winning.
And David, finally, we're saying that at 5 p.m. polls close, and in this country, polls close meaning this is the end of it. At that moment, if there's someone on the line, too bad, should be arriving earlier. Mm-hmm. But at that moment, the tallying starts to count. When are we going to get the results?
Well, Diana Tamain from the Electoral Council has said that results should be expected around 9:30 in the evening.
On Sunday, this coming Sunday
evening. And this is if it is possible to collect the entire percentage of the votes during that time. But we now know that if the elections are very close, we don't know what the response will be either from the Consejo Nacional Electoral or the candidates. We can expect anything, really. Anything is bound to happen. Both sides have a lot at stake with this election, and there will be people that are not happy with the results either way.
So, would you guess who will win?
I don't dare to guess, but I can say that with the advantage that Luisa has, she probably has more opportunity of winning right now. The last few weeks have shown that she has broader support, and a few scandals that Noboa has had within the past few weeks have really affected his public image. And again, I say most of this is perception. Most of this is public perception and optimism. And what we have seen is a lot more optimism coming from the Luisa side.
David Martinez, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We were precisely having the honor to have with us David Martinez, a political analyst. We are discussing the scenarios facing the runoff on Sunday here in Quito, Ecuador. Continue reporting for you throughout the day. And we get back to you now.
Thank you, Jorge Toso, for this latest information. Of course, thank you for your special guest for all his inputs hearing from the South. In Palestine, Israeli authorities put the 23-year-old young man Ahmed Wanastra under house arrest hours after his release 14 years